promis en échange de cet entretien. Excellent. Oui, tout ce que je dirai lors de cet entretien sera la vérité. J'ai rencontré Donald Trump à des soirées auxquelles j'assistais et où je travaillais pour Monsieur Jeffrey Epstein. J'ai rencontré Donald Trump 3 ou 4 fois. J'avais 13 ans. La première fois que j'ai rencontré Donald Trump, c'était à une soirée au manoir de Jeffrey Epstein. Il y avait une orgie en cours et il nous regardait au loin. Il m'a demandé si je pouvais venir le voir et lui faire une branlette. Au début, je n'étais pas très à l'aise. C'était ma première soirée et je ne pensais pas que c'était ma responsabilité. Mais mon recruteur m'a dit que je devais le faire. J'ai donc accepté et puis vous savez, j'ai dit que j'avais commencé à m'excuser, c'était un peu difficile, mais avant que je lui fasse une branlette, il m'a en quelque sorte giflé la main et m'a dit, vous devez utiliser un gant. Et le recruteur a couru vers moi et m'a tendu un gant en disant que personne ne touche le pénis de Monsieur Trump sans gant. Donc j'avais besoin d'utiliser un gant. Je lui ai fait une branlette et puis juste après, vous savez, il a eu un orgasme, il est parti et je ne l'ai plus revu à cette fête. Jeffrey Epstein, est un ami milliardaire de Donald Trump qui, était responsable de l'organisation des soirées sexuelles. Il y avait, je suis venu à New York pour essayer d'être mannequin, et, au cours de mes voyages, j'ai rencontré une fille qui s'appelait Tiffany. Là, qui, s'intéressait beaucoup à moi et m'a dit que, vous savez, c'est ce qu'elle faisait, elle aidait les filles, vous savez, à obtenir ce qu'elles voulaient, et elle pouvait m'aider à me lancer dans le mannequinat, qu'elle connaissait beaucoup de gens qui étaient haut placés et que ce ne serait pas un problème. Et c'est pour ça, vous savez, elle. Mais je devais juste venir poser à quelques événements et rencontrer des gens. Ce ne serait pas un problème. Alors, bien sûr que j'y suis allée. Vous savez, ça n'avait pas l'air d'être un gros problème. Et elle recrutait les filles pour venir à ses fêtes. Et elles avaient toutes l'air, je veux dire, la plupart d'entre elles avaient, vous savez, mon âge. Il y avait, vous savez, peut-être quelques filles qui avaient peut-être 14 ou 15 ans, mais il me semblait que nous étions toutes très jeunes. Donc.
D'accord.
Jeffrey Epstein savait que j'avais 13 ans. Quand il m'a interviewé, il m'a demandé de mettre mon soutien-gorge, juste ma culotte. Et j'ai trouvé ça bizarre, mais je veux dire, le mannequinat, c'était peut-être quelque chose à propos de ma silhouette. Et il m'a demandé de lui faire un massage. Alors il m'a demandé mon âge. Il m'a demandé et je lui ai dit, vous savez, je lui ai dit que j'avais 13 ans. Je lui ai dit pourquoi j'étais là. Et il a dit en gros, eh bien, tu feras l'affaire, tu sais, je suis sûr que tu seras plutôt bien ici. Et puis il a essayé de se glisser en moi. Et je l'ai repoussé. Et j'ai dit, vous savez, je suis parce qu'à ce moment-là, je croyais toujours qu'il y avait des mannequins et puis il y avait des filles qui faisaient ça. Comme si j'avais pensé qu'il y avait une séparation. Donc, je lui ai dit que ça ne m'intéressait pas, mais il a dit que je le ferais. Et en ce qui concerne Donald Trump, il savait que j'avais 13 ans, et je crois que Tiffany lui a dit qu'il semblait m'apprécier parce que j'étais si jeune.
I came to this interview on my free will. No, there was nothing promised to me for doing this interview.
Excellent.
Yes, everything that I say at this interview will be the truth. I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump. I was 13. The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance. And he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job. And at first, I wasn't very comfortable with it. This was like my first party, and I didn't think that was my responsibility. But my recruiter told me that I needed to do it. So I agreed to. And then he, I began to, sorry, this is a little difficult, but before I gave him a hand job, he kind of slapped my hand away and said, you need to use a glove. And the recruiter, he ran over and handed me a glove and said, no one touches Mr. Trump's penis without a glove. So I needed to use a glove. I gave him a hand job, and then immediately after, he had an orgasm, he left, and I didn't see him again at that party. Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire friend of Donald Trump's that was responsible for throwing the sex parties. There was, I originally came to New York trying to be a model, and in my travels I met a girl named Tiffany there who was very interested in me and said that, that's what she did, is that she helped girls, get what they wanted, and she could help me get into modeling, that she knew a lot of people that were higher ups and that it would be no problem. And so that's why, but I would just basically have to come model at a couple of events and meet some people. There would be no sweat. So, of course I went, that sounded like no big deal. And she was recruiting the girls to come to these parties. And they all looked, most of them were, my age. There was, maybe a couple girls that were maybe 14 or 15, but it seemed to me like we were all very young, so. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein knew that I was 13 years old. When he interviewed me, he asked me to get down to my bra, just my panties, and I thought that was weird, but modeling, maybe it was something about my figure. And he asked that I give him a massage. So then he asked me my age. He asked me, and I told him, told him that I was 13. I told him why I was there. And he basically said, well, you'll do, I'm sure that you'll fit pretty nicely here. And then he tried to basically slip himself inside of me, and I pushed him away, and I said, I'm because at that point in time I still believed that there was models and then there was the girls that did that. Like, I thought there was a separation. So I told him that I wasn't interested in that, but he said that I would do. And as far as Donald Trump, he knew that I was 13, and I believe that Tiffany told him he seemed to take a liking to me because I was I was so young, and I was also a virgin. So I don't know. It seemed like he wasn't really into having girls that were liked by the other guys. He kind of, the whole glove. He kind of liked things to be his first. If that, for lack of a better term, but he was the one who wanted to get to a girl before everyone else did. Donald Trump knew that I was 13 because the first night that I was there, Tiffany actually suggested that, she had a whole bunch of different wigs, and I expressed interest in them. I always told her that I would love to walk around with blue hair. And so I tried some on, and there was a blonde wig that she said that looked great on me. So I wore that wig, and Donald Trump had specifically asked about me because I remind him of his daughter. And she said, well, she's 13 as well. So he knew the first time that he saw me, but he took a liking to me because I look like his daughter. The reason I'm coming out now is when it happened originally, I just wanted to forget about the whole incident. And when I saw that he was running for president, I felt that it was my responsibility to come out and tell our country what kind of man this person is. I don't think that he should even be the dog catcher, let alone running the greatest country in the world. After I met Tiffany at the bus station, she took me to, basically went to her house, her apartment, and got ready. I put on a blonde wig because it seemed fun to pretend to be someone different, but we went to the party that I was basically interviewing for, and Jeffrey Epstein was the one that was running the party. He had a quick meeting with everyone that was employed there, and then he had a private interview with me. The first time that I met Jeffrey Epstein, he did try to force himself inside of me without getting the go-ahead or anything, and then it was probably about the third or fourth party is when he basically forced. It was another massage, and it was basically like, it wasn't sex, but there was penetration, and I told him that I didn't want that, but he kind of got a little irritated. So I don't know, there was something about him that I guess I kind of held him, I held a lot of resentment towards him. By that time that happened, I kind of already started catching on that maybe I wasn't there for modeling, and maybe I was just getting used for things, and I felt that kind of held him responsible. I did receive money to go to these parties. After every party, I was paid by Mr. Epstein. There wasn't, out of all the girls that were there with me, most of them were 13, 14. I think the oldest one might have been 16, just turned 16. And she'd been there for a while. It was Tiffany. He liked to watch other people have sex. I mean, and he's a germ, doesn't like germs, so he, rather than partaking, he just watches. So and Tiffany had informed him that I was the virgin, and so I was basically, so it was Tiffany who introduced us. Okay. Second time that I saw Mr. Trump was same scenario. He was onlooking at an orgy, and Tiffany came over to me and said that Donald Trump had requested that I perform oral sex on him, and I'd never done something like that with anybody, so I was a little nervous. So I walked up to him, and he was sitting there very proud, and I just kind of moved in that direction, and he kind of slapped me away and said, "What are you doing? You know, you need to put a condom on," like I was some dirty filth or something without a condom. Tiffany ran over and handed him a condom and apologized, profusely, and said that would never happen again. And she looked at me and scolded me basically like a child, and said that, that's not how, Donald Trump always, anytime you touch his penis, it needs to have a condom on or a glove, and especially when it comes to performing oral sex. So I apologized, and then I performed oral sex on him. And once he was done, he hopped up, and that's the last I saw of him at that party. It's like, once he's done, he's out. So. Okay. Sometimes before some of the things that I noticed that were weird with him was sometimes before the parties he would come over, and Jeffrey Epstein and himself would kind of banter back and forth, and he was Donald Trump was very racist. He said a lot of racist things. Like there was a lot of comments towards Mr. Epstein about being Jewish, and called him a Jew bastard, so that he was cheap, and there was some words I didn't even understand. Something about his the shape of his penis being directly related to his mole, or I'm not too familiar with the Jewish traditions, so, but I'm pretty sure that whatever he was saying wasn't very nice. Also referred to people of Hispanic Hispanic name, they called them spics. That was around the first time that the World Trade Center had gotten bombed in the 90s. And he was, talking about the towel heads and how, we would just be better off if we, didn't let him in, or, basically got rid of every single one that was already here. And I felt, it made me really uncomfortable, really, really uncomfortable. He also loved to call black people niggers, and Arabic people he called sand niggers. The only time that he tried to give me some money was our last encounter together, where he acted out a rape fantasy. I was forced to give that money back because Jeffrey Epstein paid us after the party. But he just gave me the money. I don't even know why he gave it to me. Maybe to make me feel more cheap. But it was a rape fantasy to him. But I wasn't playing. So there was those 2 times, and then there was after the next thing that Tiffany approached me with was that he had a fantasy where he walked in on his maids basically making out, and that it was some type of fantasy for him. So she asked, at that point I was like, I don't want to be involved with anything that has to do with him. But she's like, you were just basically the other one. So there's nothing that you will have to do. Just don't, he's requesting you to be involved. So I reluctantly, I felt like I didn't have a choice there. But it was basically he's walking in, his 2 maids. I was one of the maids. I was the white maid. And there was a Spanish girl, Maria, who was the Hispanic maid. And we were making out, and he walks in and he gets really angry and threatens to call immigration on Maria if she doesn't come over and make things right and give him a blowjob. So while she is over there giving him a blowjob, I am just trying to, I'm supposed to look scared, like, oh no, and cleaning up things and pretending like I'm trying to go back to my job as a maid. And then he's being so rude to Maria. I felt so bad for her, even though I guess it just didn't seem like a fantasy. It didn't seem like it's the weirdest fantasy as far as that. He was threatening to call immigration on her, so that she didn't know how to, she wasn't even near going down to give him, perform oral sex on him before he slapped her away and said, what are you doing? You need to put a condom on, and she's trying to, I'm so sorry, and he's like, you can't even understand what you're saying, it just, speak English, he called her derogatory comments, and then he's like, you know what, you don't know what you're doing, have her come over and show you